From that really came the fact that confidence wins a lot,
Uh-huh.
research wins a lot,
Uh-huh.
predictability wins a lot. Now, when you combine predictability, research, and confidence, and you take action, because without implementation, knowledge is just academic. You can learn a bunch of things, but they're not making you money until
Yes.
you're actually putting your own money in the game. So
Yeah.
I learned that taking action has its rewards. And even the worst experience I've had so far, I've made some
Yes.
gain. It was better than just renting and waiting. So I guess a lot of the fear went away because I knew that
Uh-huh.
it can be forgiving, especially if you're not in an urgent, forced sale. If you're not doing a fire sale where you must clear everything in
Yes.
one go, if you've got
Yes.
patience and you can work out what you think the next person who wants to buy the property is going to look for, it's predictable,
Yes.
but implement, put action against it. And when
Yeah.
you do it
Yeah.
the right way, you put action against it. And you do that with a predetermined plan. So
Yes.
don't just go with emotion and try to do everything yourself. Um, don't take the word of what the real estate agents are going to tell you it's worth and what the
No.
potential. Do your own research. You can come up with results like I've had. Now, I've said this before in our last interview, Tony, but I'll say this
Yes.
again just as a disclaimer. Just because it's happened in the past isn't a guarantee for future results. And just because I was able to do it for myself isn't a guarantee that you'll be able to do it for yourself. So a disclaimer here, it's only general information and this is not specific information to your circumstance. So please reach out to me if you do need help with investing. If you want to have a chat about what the real estate market looks now and what
Yes.
the next few years can bring to you, but not guaranteed. So absolutely, I'm happy to answer those questions, Tony. Now, let me tell you, if we've still got time, about the
We
next
have.
that happened.
Yes. We've got enough time to tell the next one.
So imagine yourself now in a situation where you've decided that you've ripped out enough carpets and you've painted enough walls and you've renovated enough so you're confident in allowing somebody else to have the fun. You're confident now
Ah.
being able to hire somebody to do the jobs that need to be done with a scope of works that you write up. So instead of doing
Yes.
everything yourself, of course, we all have the option of paying an expert to do that. So I reached out to some of my connections in the financial planning field. You touched on this
Mm.
earlier, Tony. My first
Yes.
start into this was through research at one of the big four banks in Australia of how to be a financial planner,
Definitely.
how to be a financial planner, how to analyze, how to read numbers. But I kept a lot of my friends from back in the day, which meant that when I was looking for my next investment property, I wanted to do it by the numbers. I decided that I wanted to invest in something that I'm buying, and right now it has a positive rental income. Why? Because I didn't want to keep working 60 or 70 hours a week. And I knew
Yeah.
that working my full time job was always going to be 45 to 50 hours. I never picked the kind of starting jobs that had that 30-hour a week option where you start exactly on
Yeah.
time, you leave exactly on time, and you get your 45-minute lunch break. Those kind of jobs didn't excite me. So I always went for the kind of jobs that were a bit more
They were a bit.
managerial supervision, or at least required more enthusiasm than just clock in, clock out, and do your job. Um, for
Uh-huh.
better or worse, that was always my story. So when I was looking for investment properties, I wanted the return to be on my whiteboard at least,
Positive.
something that'll give me a positive income, which meant that the
Mm.
time and research and hiring people to fix or renovate was worthwhile.
Yes.
I spoke to one of my friends who was a financial planner in Sydney. They said,
Mm.
well, Amir, you said you didn't want to invest in New South Wales again. Why? I explained that the way my portfolio is looking is a mixture of things. I want to diversify. I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. And also, I'm looking for something that gives me better results than the Sydney results. Because if I'm getting 6% return rental, and I'm talking net, after all the costs.
Yes.
If I'm getting a
Yes.
6% net return, or if I'm getting an 8% net return, that's pretty much the top of the Sydney market or the top of the New South Wales market. But I knew from my research that there are some cities and some towns in Australia that had so many jobs in it and that had the kind of research that showed future projections of growth in the
Yes.
business, the education, the entertainment, the schooling.
Yes.
BEES. Spells bees, doesn't it? We'll come back to
It
that.
does. Yes.
I knew from my research that
Mm.
there are some great places scattered around different states in Australia that had infrastructure, investment, that were going somewhere and that weren't reliant on one type of industry, that weren't reliant on one type of company, that weren't thinking of, yes, we'll build this and we'll have thousands of jobs while we're building, but then once it's built, those people
No
leave.
jobs afterwards. Yeah.
I looked at it, I researched, and the financial planner said to me, well, I've been on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, and I've made some friends with real estate agents that are out of town. One of them was the best one in a specific town in Western Australia. So look, I don't want to name the companies I worked for because that's kind of irrelevant, but I can say this. Danielle in Port Hedland is remarkable. So if you're doing a search for real estate and you're looking for a real estate agent, and
In
I don't get
Western
into
Australia.
this is just a testimonial from my own experience. In Western Australia, a little town called Port Hedland, there's an incredible lady called Danielle, and my financial planner recommended that I ring Danielle and just see what's on the market, specifically where I can get double-digit rental returns. What do I mean by double-digit? It means 10% or more rent against the purchase price. Within 3 hours, Tony, I found a place that I made an offer with through Danielle. So
3
Danielle was
hours.
representing the seller. She was selling this property, and in Western Australia, you can make a bid, and if your bid is successful, it's a contract. You can exchange, you can pay a deposit, etc. So I checked the rules first, make sure that I didn't put my foot in where it just doesn't belong. But once I checked the rules,
Yeah.
different properties, and I knew what was important to me: the location, the type of bad quality that needs renovation, the place that was close to jobs, but also had other attractions around it. And I found a property in Daniel's database that was advertised on the internet, but was around 100 metres from 3 supermarkets, Coles, Aldi, Woolworths, about 100
Yes.
metres from the beach, and very close, when I say very close, about a 15-minute drive to an international airport. So if somebody was working from overseas or going overseas, or if they could afford the kind of money to fly in and out of that town, they didn't need to fly to a capital city first and then fly out. But the airport there, or 15 minutes from the house, was far enough to not hear noise, because you don't want to live right next to the airport, but close enough so that the town could support growth in the future. And I found this beautiful duplex. And I say beautiful in inverted commas.
Amir's beautiful.
Potentially beautiful. Diamond in the rough. I choose your own bumper sticker here. But imagine this.
Yeah.
100 metres from the beach, 100 metres from supermarkets, 100 metres from cafes. Not a luxurious place, but 860 square metres with 2 separate, I think it was a 4-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, that were both, a 3-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, that were both rented at the same time to 2 different families or 2 different tenants.
Yes.
So the estimated price that the real estate agent was quoting was between 230 and 250. And by the time I reached Danielle, 2 other people had already made an offer between that 230 and 250. So I thought about what I have to give. What is it that I can offer? Because I didn't want to spend more money on it. And the rental return was around $450 a week. So at $450,000, that would be about a 5% return. But
that's right.
10% return, which means double that. So what does that gross return come to? divided by 225, if my maths is correct. So I knew my limit to do this correctly was 225,000. So I think we spent about 5 phone calls backwards and forwards, and I spoke to a few people who were estimating things for me. I had a look at the building inspection that came from a local builder, so I would need to fly out and do the important stuff. I had a look at what the council was doing, what infrastructure programs are happening in the near term, and I made an offer in writing to Danielle of 200,000.
Yes.
So now my third lowest. So the other two were between 230 and 250. Mine was lower than the other two. Allegedly, I didn't see the offers. I'm taking the real estate agent's word for it. Let's just say that they were higher than mine. What I offered was a 14-day settlement. Thinking, okay, I'm selling. The owner is thinking to themselves, I'm selling a property. I've got 3 offers, but I actually want the money. I don't want the excitement. I want the definiteness of, yes, it's in my account. So I offered 14 days. And my offer, they accepted my offer pretty much because I said I could do it in 14 days. And they went to their bank and said, yes, we've found let's get us out of the mortgage. We want to close off the loan.
Let's do.
The bank said, oh, we can't do it that quick. It's going to take us 6 weeks. So I ended up settling on the property in 6 weeks anyway. But I offered I was capable. And that meant that I bought for 200,000. For 200,000, I bought a property that was rented for $450 a week.
Well done.
18 months, few things changed in Port Hedland. More jobs arrived. There was big announcements from 5 mining companies around Australia that were all going to use a new train station in that area. There was redevelopment of a marina in the area. There was going to be tens of millions of dollars of investment to build up a luxurious little rental and holiday area and luxury resort, etc. All this wasn't around when I first researched, but you know what? The location and the proximity to an airport meant that it had the opportunity to, if somebody chose to do something in the future, and it happened within 12 months, 18 months. So what does that mean? I rang Danielle, didn't I? I said, okay, what's it going to take to sell this property straight away? And she said, oh, we've got buyers. That's not a problem. I said, okay, I want to sell it for 300,000. I bought it for 200 about a year and a bit ago. I want to sell for 300,000. She said, well, I don't know, but I can put it up. I can put it on the marketing. I can put it on the websites, see what happens. I said, okay, well, let's do this. I've got a list of things that I think would improve the property. Can you, as the local agent, organise somebody to give full quotes for all these little bits and pieces that need to be done? And we found a builder. We found somebody that could do pest inspections, put termite traps around it. In the northern part of Australia, there's little things that you have to consider. Every house thinks about cyclones and high windstorms. Every house thinks about termites and risks to flooding, etc. So to get it from the level that I bought it at to the level that somebody else is going to say yes to it, I knew it was going to require a bit of negotiation. So I said to Danielle, okay, do me a favor, let's put a buffer. Let's put a little gap between what we advertise it at and what I'm happy with, which is 300. And Danielle said, okay, well, that's quite a big gap. I said, okay, well, let's just advertise like this. Within 2 weeks, she had several offers, one of which we accepted for 350. And the list of to-dos on the 350,000 job, I knew was going to cost about $50,000. So my solicitor and the buyer solicitor got together and put that in writing and said on the contract, okay, we'll buy it, we'll deposit now, but we'll only settle once you finish all the work you've promised on. And I said, okay, no problem. I transferred from the 350,000 that they were paying, at least 50, I think maybe even 60, was held by the solicitor until all the work was finished. As the contract said, we ended up keeping about 295,000 out of that 350. So that means that within a year or so, we bought for 200 and sold for 300.
Fantastic. Amir,